In a statement on Wednesday, she demanded that the parliamentary panel should allow her to cross-question Mr.
Primary schools for 2 days amidst worsening levels of air pollution. Air quality in the city dropped to severe levels for the first time this season on Thursday. It is expected to deteriorate further in the next 2 weeks, scientists say. Delhi's environment minister has called an emergency meeting to review the situation. The capital is one of the world's most polluted cities. Delhi's air turned especially toxic in winter due to various factors, including burning of crops, remains by farmers, low wind speed, and bursting of firecrackers during festivals. The city's air pollution peaks from 1st to 15th November, when the number of stubble burning incidents in the neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana increased, studies by the Delhi Pollution Control Committee showed. On Thursday evening, the concentration of PM 2.5, fine particulate matter that can clog lungs and cause a host of diseases, exceeded the safe limit of 60 micrograms per cubic meter by 7 to 8 times in several parts of the city and its suburbs. According to government data, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal announced that all government and private primary schools in the city would remain closed on Friday and Saturday. As part of the third phase of its graded response action plan to combat effects of increased pollution, a Central Pollution Control Panel ordered immediate ban on non-essential construction work in the city. In the second phase implemented last week, all public transport services, including the Delhi Metro and electric bus services, had been constructed to increase their frequency to curb vehicle emissions. Last month, the Delhi government put in place a comprehensive ban on the manufacture, sale, and use of firecrackers within the city. The practice has been in place for the last 3 years. Polluted air causes severe health issues to Delhi residents every year. Health professionals are reporting increasing cases of asthma and lung issues among children and the elderly because of the worsening air quality. We are recording a surge in the number of irritative bronchitis infections. Jugal Kishore, the head of medicine department at the city's Savdarung Hospital, told PTI news agency. He recommended people suffering from respiratory issues not to go out in the open unless absolutely necessary.
Kazakhstan was in national mourning on Sunday after 45 people died in a fire at an ArcelorMittal mine, the worst accident in the Central Asian country's post-Soviet history. The tragedy, which struck at the Kostenko coal mine in the Karaganda region on Saturday, came after a series of deadly incidents at ArcelorMittal mines and has prompted the nationalization of the company's local affiliate. As of 3 p.m., the bodies of 42 people were found. Kazakhstan's emergency services said on social media the search for 4 miners continues. Later, authorities said the bodies of 3 others had been found and rescuers were searching for the last missing miner, but held little hope of finding him alive. Rescuers had earlier warned that chances of finding the remaining miners alive were very low due to the lack of ventilation and the force of Saturday's explosion, which spread over 2 kilometers. The previous deadliest mine accident in post-Soviet Kazakhstan occurred in 2006, killing 41 miners at another ArcelorMittal site. It came 2 months after another incident that killed 5 miners. Anger and disbelief reigned after the disaster in Karaganda, central Kazakhstan. Every miner is a hero because when he goes down, he does not know if he will come back or not, said Sergei Glazgov, a former miner. Many welcomed the government's move towards nationalization, angered by the company's safety record. Daniel Mustfain, a 42-year-old salesman, said he favored full nationalization without material compensation for the current owners. President Kazim Jomart Tokayev has ordered cooperation with the Luxembourg-based company to be brought to an end. Speaking to victims' relatives at the mine, Tokayev called ArcelorMittal the worst enterprise in Kazakhstan's history in terms of cooperation with the government. The Kazakh government and the steel giant announced a preliminary preliminary agreement to transfer ownership of the local firm in favor of the Republic of Kazakhstan, said the Prime Minister Alikan Samilov. ArcelorMittal can confirm that the two parties have signed a preliminary agreement for a transaction that will transfer ownership to the Republic of Kazakhstan, the global steel company stated, adding it was committed to finalizing this transaction as soon as possible. On Sunday, flags were flown at half a mass to mark the day of national mourning declared by Tokyo. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, about 200 miners have died in Kazakhstan, the vast majority at ArcelorMittal sites. There were 252 people inside the mine when the fire started, ArcelorMittal said. Outside a hospital in Karaganda, relatives of those who had survived the blast were thanking the heavens. His guardian angel saved him. He is alive, said Nikolai Berlin, the brother of the injured miner. Two of his ribs were slightly torn apart from the blow, and he had surgery to put them back in place. Local politicians have also called for the immediate nationalization of the company. They must answer before a court because they did not ensure people's safety, said Kudai Bejan Beksultanov, the local MP. The state needs to take it up upon itself now. Alexei Svivstonov, a 48-year-old security guard, told press in Karaganda, in order for people not to die, the government needs to oversee the process, and there needs to be criminal responsibility. ArcelorMittal's arrival in Kazakhstan in 1995 was initially seen as a beacon of hope during the economic slump that followed the fall of communism. But a lack of investment and inadequate safety standards were repeatedly criticized by the authorities, while trade unions called for lighter government control. Led by the Indian businessman Lakshmi Mittal, the group operates 15 factories and mines in the center of the former Soviet Republic.
Ukraine claims to have shot down 24 out of 40 drones launched by Russia overnight. Sospien, Ukraine state broadcaster, in its morning news roundup, states that Ukraine armed forces claim to have shot down 24 out of 40 drones launched at Ukrainian territory by Russia overnight. In its report, it states that in the west of Ukraine, a military object was attacked in the Ivano-Frankivsk region where a fire started. It has been extinguished. Also, the west. 5 drop strikes were recorded at a critical infrastructure facility in Lviv region. The governor there reported no casualties. Sospien also reports around midnight, drones struck Kharkiv and its suburbs, a civilian object, private houses, an educational institution, and cars were damaged. There are no injured. The claims have not been independently verified.
The U.S. is expected to deliver $425 million in new military aid to Ukraine for its fight against Russia, including about $300 million in long-term funding to buy laser-guided munitions designed to take out drones, which attributes the line to unarmed U.S. officials. It's understood the long-term money will be provided through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, which funds contracts for larger weapon systems. They need to be either built or modified by defense companies. The new agency says the officials spoke on condition of anonymity because the aid has not yet been publicly announced. An announcement is expected on Friday. This would be the 50th package of aid pulled from Pentagon shelves, and it resembles an aid package about a week ago that was for $150 million. The smaller totals for the drawdowns come as Pentagon funding for the Ukraine war shrinks.
Austria is seeking to adopt a Rwanda-style deal to deport asylum seekers to a third country, having agreed to work with the UK on migration. Suella Braverman signed a migration and security agreement with the Australian counterpart, Gerhard Karner, in which the two countries agreed to work more closely together. It is the first EU country to sign such a deal with the UK, whose £140 million Rwanda's deportation scheme is on hold pending the outcome of a Supreme Court judgment on its legality. Austria's offshoring scheme would differ from the UK's in that people deported to a third country will be allowed to return to Austria if their asylum applications were successful. Those rejected will be returned to their home countries. Under the UK's proposed Rwanda scheme, people would be deported on a one-way ticket to the Central African country to claim asylum unless they can show that it would expose them to a risk of serious and irreversible harm. Rishi Sunak and the Home Secretary are pushing European partners to overhaul international asylum agreements, including the Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights, in the face of a worldwide migration crisis. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on the legality of the UK-Rwanda's policy in mid-December. If successful, the Home Office hopes to have the first deportation flights in the air in February. It is ruled unlawfully on the basis that there is a risk of asylum seekers being returned to their home country in breach of their human rights. Sunak will come under intense pressure from many Tory MPs, including at least 8 members of his cabinet, to query the ECHR. Australia has also been pushing the EU to adopt a Rwanda-style scheme across Europe as a part of changes to deal with the rising arrivals from across the Mediterranean and its eastern borders. Kana, Austria's interior minister, said the UK has a lot of experience when it comes to processing asylum applications outside of Europe. In the future, that was an important theme in my meeting with the Home Secretary in Vienna, because Austria can benefit from this experience. We will continue to make a consistent effort for the EU Commission to advance and enable such procedures outside of Europe, Braverman said. The global migration crisis is the challenge of our age, with the UK and European continent seeing huge movements of people traveling illegally across our borders. This is placing an unprecedented burden on our communities and public services. Austria is a close ally in tackling illegal migration, and we have already begun sharing knowledge of our actions and strategies, such as third country removals. This joint statement is a commitment to work more closely together to achieve our aims and enhance our cooperation in a wide range of security challenges. Denmark is the only other country that has previously drawn up plans to deport asylum seekers to third countries, but its proposals have been on hold.
Armed police officers wave cars off the motorway going from Poland to Germany. They're searching for people, smugglers, and the desperate cargo. This is the German government's latest bid to show it is getting a grip on rising levels of irregular migration. But as we found in the rural border district, there's little sense of control. Attenberg is a small town in Saxony, right by the Czech Republic. Families race down a toboggan run that weaves through the forest, and when winter's here, there's even a small ski resort. The local mayor, Marcus Wesenberg, says that in this area alone, smugglers drop off people as often as once a day. The trafficker disappears and probably picks up the next load. New arrivals puts a strain on local services, he says, as well as local people. Sometimes they find sleeping bags and campfires in the woods, and they are worried for their children. Migration is looming large in the national debate after the far right is seen to have capitalized on the issue, fueling recent gains in regional elections. Ministers ordered temporary checks last month on Germany's land borders with Poland, the Czech Republic, and Switzerland. The controls were renewed this week, as they have been for years on the border with Austria, and they are all within the EU's supposedly border-free Schengen zone. The number of people found entering Germany illegally in September is 21,366, the highest monthly figure since early 2016, according to the federal police. The country remains a top destination for asylum seekers. In August, it received about 30% of the 100,000 applications lodged within the EU, Norway, and Switzerland. Inside an old youth hotel in rural Saxony, more than 50 men are waiting for their future to begin. 33-year-old Muhammad Abdolm from Syria has successfully applied for asylum and hopes soon to find work. He's adopted a leadership role at this migrant housing center and seems naturally upbeat.
German Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck has vowed a tough political response to increasing anti-Semitism. In a video seen 8 million times, he criticized anti-Semitism from Islamists, the far right, and parts of the political left. Germany has seen a recent surge in anti-Semitic and anti-Israel incidents. They began after the 7 October attacks in Israel, during which Palestinian Hamas militants killed 1,400 Israelis and took more than 230 hostages. Israel then launched a war, it's saying it is aimed at destroying Hamas. The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 9,000 people have since been killed. Mr. Habek's lengthy and emotive video has had a big impact in Germany. He pointed out that almost 80 years after the Holocaust, Jewish communities were having to tell their members to steer clear of certain places. Some political figures praised him for giving what sounded like a State of the Nation address. Anti-Semitism Commissioner Felix Klein said he had made a clear and prudent appeal to the responsibility of everyone in Germany to stand up for the safety of Jewish women and men. Germany has outlawed the burning of other countries' flags, and the Vice-Chancellor reminded Germans that burning the Israeli flag or praising Hamas actions were crimes. Anyone who is German will have to answer for this in court, Mr. Habeck said in his message. Anyone who is in German also risks losing their resident status. Anyone who doesn't yet have a resident permit is given grounds for deportation. Mr. Habeck said some Muslim groups had been too hesitant in distancing themselves from Hamas or anti-Semitism, and he spoke of his concern about young activists on the left talking of anti-colonialism. Not everyone was impressed. One former party colleague said she was disgusted that he had implied that Muslim migrants and refugees had brought anti-Semitism into Europe. The head of Germany's Central Council of Muslims, Ayman Mazdiek, had earlier condemned anti-Semitism as a sin, stressing that Germany's 5 million Muslims should not all be lumped together. He went on to condemn Israel's bombing of Gaza as a war crime. When Hamas gunmen attacked Israeli communities on 7 October, activists celebrated on the streets of the Berlin district, handing out Germany. German Nazi President announced Thursday that all activities ban, along with the pro-Palestinian network called Sami, and an outrage. Said terror organization Hamas pursues the goal of destroying the state. Why Sami was spreading propaganda and acting as a organization for the release of prisoners in various countries. Hamas is prescribed as terrorist group in the UK. It was already abandoned. Germany, but Ms. Spicer said outlawing its activities enabled authorities rather than ban and promoting media to Spain during of supported. Intelligence officials estimate Hamas has 150 many of them a week after the Hamas attacks on Germany, told by compared with the same period in 2022. Patrol bombs were thrown at a Berlin Jewish community center, and Jewish-owned homes have been daubed with slogans. The head of Germany's Central Council of Jews, Joseph Schuster, welcomed the bans and called for action against other hate organizations. Neighboring Austria has also seen a sharp increase in reported anti-Semitic incidents. On Tuesday night, a Jewish section of Vienna's Central Cemetery came under attack. A swastika was daubed on the wall and a fire broke out in the ceremonial hall. Although the cause of the fire was unclear, the head of the Jewish community, Oskar Dusch, wrote on social media that the fire had destroyed valuable old books and a Torah Ark. You are watching the International News on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break. Storm Caesarean also swept through the Veneto region, where one person is reported missing. And that's the international news for today. Thank you for joining us. I am Valentina Lawrence.
And I'm Bessela Chathamba.
Good afternoon.